While I was test driving this 4Runner, I noticed an unusual problem with the seat backs, and that's that the recline does not work properly. When you lean it forward or back, only the left-hand side of the seat moves. Now, when negotiating the price of the vehicle, I was told that each seat is about $2,500 to replace completely, but luckily it is actually a really easy fix. You only need 3 tools. You want a flathead screwdriver, you'll need a ratchet with a 10mm socket and a 14mm socket. Some vice grips really help, pliers are good too, and it can be useful to have a second person just to keep an eye on things and help you line up a couple of things. Now, before you do any work on the seat itself, you need to make sure that it is upright and as level as possible with the left side and the right side lined up. Once you're happy that the left and the right hand side of the seat are lined up, you're going to want to take your 10mm socket and disconnect the negative terminal of the battery. The first step to removing the seats is going to be to pry off the plastic trim pieces on each of the legs of the seat. To do this, you're going to take the flathead screwdriver. First you'll pop the trim up, and then you'll pull it either forward at the front or back at the back of the seat. Underneath the trim pieces, you'll use your 14mm socket to take out the 4 bolts that are holding the seat in. Once the seat is loose, lean it back and unplug any of the connections that you have underneath, and you can remove the seat. Once you have your seat out, flip it upside down, and you'll need to pop off the plastic trim on either side. You can do that using a flathead screwdriver. You can just pry it off pretty easily. You don't need to pull the plastic trim all the way off, you just need to pop it out enough that you can see down the gearing on the side of the seats. So the reason this seat doesn't recline is because there's a spline shaft that connects the 2 sides together, and that spline shaft is simply shifted one way or the other. So you will need to take the spline shaft on the end of this sticking out and try and wiggle it and put it back into the gears on the other side. This is where having a friend to help you out really makes life easy, because you can have one person wiggle the spline shaft where it's sticking out and the other person can look on the other side and see when it's lined up correctly. So yeah, there it is. I think I can get it. Yeah, it's in. Once it's pushed through correctly, you should have about 1/4 inch of the spline shaft sticking out on either end. There are also small metal retaining clips that go on there. They don't work particularly well, obviously, but you can make sure that they are pushed in as far as they go. Now everything's ready to go back together. The seats are now fully functional, leaning forward and back with no issues. I found that when I was repairing the passenger side that the shaft was not too far out of the gearing, so I could just move the seat fully forward, take the trim off the sides, then move it fully back to work on lining the shaft up. This saved me from having to remove the seat completely and might be worth a shot. If you found this guide useful and you want to see more of my build and more of the off-road adventures, subscribe to the channel.